Are you ready to do a video about our house? Yes? Okay. We're going to do an update about housing. We did not get the house. There. You don't need to watch anymore. I'm only joking. So we put in an offer. Yes, I put a letter in. But there was also a lot of investors that were there when we were looking, and somebody outbid us. So we did not get that house. So what does that mean for us now? So we still are under contract with the first house, the big house, the one that's fairly controversial on here at this point. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people are like, no way, too much work. We're not scared of work, but we are very cautious about what the work is and the extent of the work given our situation. We obviously want to make sure the electrical system is working well. So things that need to be evaluated, the electrical system, because the electrical system was either screwed shut or rusted shut or something like that. We do not exactly know. He said it looked like it was screwed shut. And because of that, our inspector could not inspect the electrical system. So before we move into this house, or before we decide on this house, I would want a full inspection of the electrical system. And I do believe that the seller should pay for that. The other thing is the boiler was not working appropriately, and so I feel like the seller should pay for that. So those are the two things that I believe that the seller really should address. Other things that need to be addressed are we already have a quote back for fixing the beams underneath the house. We got a quote back from a company, like a professional company. That's what they do. I feel comfortable with the quote. I feel comfortable with what they said. We did do like a mold asbestos type thing. So far right now, we know that the house has no asbestos. It came clear with all of that, and we're waiting for the report for the mold. We also, I'm getting somebody to go out and take a look at the front porch, because the way the front porch was put on, the angle of it, when it snows or whatever, there can be backup, and it can back up and drip into the house, and there was wetness, not wetness, but like water spots in the house that you could see where that had happened. So I think that what we will be asking once reports come back, I do think that we would want the seller to address those two things, and then we can negotiate some of the other things and what we would be willing to do versus what we wouldn't be willing to do, that type of stuff. But definitely for me, the electrical and the boiler system needs to get fixed before we move in the house. So that's where we're at with that. So we're just trying to think things through. We have lots of appointments over the next couple days, so I'm going to be focusing on that. We have until the 5th of November before we would need to do anything else as far as the house goes. Our earnest deposit, what is that called? Not earnest deposit, earnest money, whatever it is, the money that you give, we would need to decide by the 5th. So we put an extension on it originally so that we could get all these different, so we could get all these different things. But we really, for me, the electrical, I have to make sure that his electrical things would be able to be plugged in and be safe. And the boiler, obviously, my kids need to be warm. So the other structural type things are not immediate, and we could start working on those in the spring. So it is what it is. So we're trying to decide. We did, if you remember, we looked at 4 houses that one day. The 2 other houses that we thought were halfway decent are still on the market. There's also a few other houses that are on the market. Do they have the amount of land that we would want? No. But maybe it's just a stepping stone. So I've really just been praying that God makes it all clear, because just because we buy a house does not mean we have to buy a house and stand there forever. It could be that we're being called to be here for a period of time, or that we might be in a house for a little bit and then sell that house and move to a different house. We would like a better scenario than where we're at right now. That said, I really need to work on being content at where I'm at as well. It's a lot of work to look for a house. It takes a lot out of you, like mentally, physically. I know it should be like a fun time, but there's all these things. Last week, every single day last week, the lender was requiring another piece of paperwork. Now, if they just gave me a list of things, which they did in the beginning, they gave me all these things that I needed to fill out and check off and whatever, and then they said, okay, there's going to be 3 additional things, which I've submitted all of those things already, but then all of a sudden they just want like more stuff, and it's just so frustrating. Then it's like, do I want to start over? Not really, because that's a whole other headache of things. Yeah, I had a hard time with this one. I think when you see a house and then you're just like, for me, I feel like I can make almost anything a home. So even like when we go tent camping, I'm like, yeah, let's just organize this. This is going over here. This is going here. Right now we are in Boston, and I'm like, okay, let's just organize these areas. This can go over here. This can go over here, and we'll be all set. So I think that when you are looking at a house, you need to mentally look at it from a perspective of how would things work? Could bunk beds fit in there? Could, like, if you really were to put your family in there, and that actually like puts a piece of your heart into that home. So yeah. So it can be a little challenging, for that home. It was kind of like, oh, there's already a ramp on it. There's already, stuff like that. So anyway, that's where we're at with the first house. The really cool thing is the Lord has just really brought a lot of Christian ladies into our life lately. And I just feel really, really blessed by that. Huge homeschool community. Huge, even if it's a different denominations or whatever, just lots of loving women. Yeah, it just feels incredibly, like my kids are like, oh, my friend this person or my friend this person. And just the children are so accepting. That's one thing I love about homeschool kids, is most of the time they are just so used to being in homeschool groups that they are so used to like older people help younger people, everyone just kind of helps each other. And they just love people for who they are rather than trying to change them. Mr. Man does still have a runny nose, which you can probably hear. I'm hoping it's going to be a good trip down here. Anyway, hi, buddy. So they're going to finish doing all the things, like we'll get the report back for the mold, hopefully get somebody out for the porch, and then we can put an official, like, okay, this is how much it would cost to repair everything, and then we can decide to renegotiate what we're looking at for that house, and then see what they say. That's all we can do, right? We can do what we can do, and we can change what we can change, but we can't change other people, and we can't change other situations. And then we just have to decide, okay, that wasn't for God's will for our life. Now, if every time something tiny goes wrong, you're like, oh, must not be God's will. I've seen this quite a bit. Oh, if this went wrong or that went wrong, it must not be God's will. Well, I think sometimes you just need to take a step. Maybe you need to say, okay, let me take a step back, evaluate, then take another step forward. But it doesn't mean if anything goes wrong that it's not God's will, because so many things in life are hard and it's in God's will. So being easy doesn't necessarily mean that it's God's will. I just feel like if you take a step, evaluate your heart, evaluate your mind, and then take another step forward, then you're going to be able to make wise decisions. Yes, when I first looked at the big house, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. But I'm not an idiot. If the house is junk, then I don't want to live there. And I don't want my kids to live there. But if the house needs some work and can eventually be a beautiful house, I can dream. So that's it for today. There's my update. I hope y'all have a blessed and wonderful day.